Hey everyone, welcome to week 76. Today's day 4. This is our 4th day on our ongoing number 2 pencil week. We'll see if we can finish strong this week.
Okay, let's get started. This is day 4. This is our 4th day on our ongoing number 2 pencil week. And for this last drawing, I'm going to embrace something that I love, something that is close to my heart, something that I do because I enjoy it. It's not something that I have to push. It's not something that I have to fake. No, it's actually something that I thoroughly enjoy. It makes me happy when I do it in a painting or in a drawing. It makes me grin. I always feel like I'm playing a game with myself, and it makes the act of drawing and painting feel like the way you always hope it feels. Struggling, fighting with a painting, being frustrated, all those things are part of art. All those things are part of the creative process. I understand that. I feel that every single day of my life. But there is something to be said about doing a drawing or a painting or a sketch or a little sculpture, doing any creative act just because it brings you happiness. And I'm not trying to minimize the relevance that an act that can make you happy have in your artistic development, because we're not being complacent. We're not just trying to satisfy our whims and that's it. That's where everything ends. No, we actually have an objective. We have a plan. And it's just that when you're executing it, you are making a ton of sacrifices in order to push the things that you appreciate. So one of the things that I relish, and you guys know this already because I've talked about it a ton of times, and because you've seen me do it in countless paintings during this project, it has to do with distortion. And I was explaining yesterday how I understand distortion. There is a vertical distortion that I favor. I naturally tend to elongate things, and we talked about this before. I don't really know exactly why I do it. I think it's a mix between me loving El Greco and loving Greek Orthodox imagery, but also loving Giacometti. So there's tons of examples during art history where pushing both dimensions, the x-axis and the y-axis, making something wider and making something narrower, those all have been explored. And for some reason, I have a tendency to enjoy images that are pushing the vertical gesture and sacrifice the proportions of the subject matter in order to push that gesture. So today I'm going to do that. I'm going to use the same tool we've been using, and I think I've been somewhat disciplined throughout the week. I think on Monday with Fer's drawing, I did give myself a little bit of leeway, and there is a slight misproportion between the body and the portrait. The portrait is a little bit larger, and then the body just becomes a little more frail. I just wanted to have that spotlight on Fer's expression, so it was really important for me to have those two proportions just clinging on to each other, just trying to inhabit the same space. So I guess on Monday, I did give myself some liberties in terms of the relationships between the forms that were in the drawing. On Tuesday and Wednesday, I think I was disciplined with Colleen's portrait on Tuesday. It was a matter of, yes, getting my drawing down. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect with me. I'm not that type of drafts person. But at least for me, the essence of Colleen is there. I'm trying to be faithful to her character, and I think it's there. There are small misproportions, of course, but I thought I was close enough. I was, as disciplined as I can be, as, academic as I can be. And as soon as I sense that it's there, I just tell myself, okay, now push forward. You can now develop little bits of form. And I just really liked the tone of that drawing. And I'm referring to both definitions of tone. I'm referring to the compressed values that are within the drawing, but I'm also referring to the sentiment behind the drawing. I think there's a very nice mix between those two. And on Wednesday, I was drawing Danny, this very kind of geometric disposition of Danny. And I think what I was saying on Monday and reiterated on Wednesday about me struggling with this lighter, softer nature of drawing, I think it's exhibited perfectly in that drawing of Danny. Like, I'm trying to access the sweetness of her. She is an incredibly warm-hearted person. She's the kindest person that I know. And when I see that, and when I catch her on a beautiful pose and I take a photograph or I sketch her, I always see that in her, and I'm very frustrated with myself if I can't touch that, if I can't, get close enough to that feeling to touch it, to understand it, it's really, really frustrating for me. It maddens me when I know that I want to do something, when I can sense it, I can feel it, I can experience it, but my ability can't take me there. My discipline can't take me there. So yesterday, I tried to do a sweet drawing. I don't think it's saccharine, but I think the essence of it is just pure love and sweetness. And those are very tough drawings. Very, very tough drawings. I don't know how many times I've drawn or painted Danny, but I always think I miss something. I always think I touch base with tons of things that I know about her, tons of things that are very obvious about her. But there's always something missing. Like I always feel I was almost there, but I couldn't get to the finish line. And I think that's kind of how it's supposed to feel. When you feel that somebody is close to your heart, when you know them and you realize that they're incredibly complex human beings, I think trying to cover all of their essence, all those aspects that make up their being is impossible. It's absolutely impossible, but it's also wonderfully challenging. It's not something that stumps you. It's not something where you leave that drawing or painting defeated. I've never felt after painting Danny like I don't want to paint her anymore. No, I always feel like, okay, I got this aspect of her. I got this facet of her, this side of her today, but I missed these tiny little clues of who she is. They escaped me today. And I always feel like, okay, you know what? Next time. And that's actually pretty cool because when you try to draw that person that's very close to your life, that very next time, you're carrying with you all those experiences and you are going to try to put them to good use. That doesn't mean that those experiences are going to make anything easier because they're not. They're not. Drawing is always going to be starting from zero and you have to climb that mountain time and again every time you start a drawing. That can be disheartening, but that can also be exhilarating because you know that there's a new challenge coming up every single time. Like it gives you purpose. It gives you an idea of what to do, what to try, what to go for. If you don't feel that thirst, if you don't feel that want while you're drawing or painting, you guys know me. I don't try to sound absolutist, but I think that if you don't feel those things, I don't think you're doing it right. Or I think you're doing it a disservice by not paying attention and not letting yourself feel those things. Because when you feel those things, you realize that this experience just takes over your body and your mind. It's something that's very, very demanding of you. But the coolest thing is that because it is demanding of you as a whole integral person, as a human being, the things that it gives you back also help you grow in an integral fashion. The drawing and painting act can be very, very enriching. And that's why I always tell people, take advantage of it. Every single opportunity that you have, take advantage of it, seize it. It doesn't mean that this is the last painting that you're going to do. It doesn't mean that you have to try and swing for the fences, hit it out of the park every single time. No, but be invested, be present, be vulnerable, open yourself up. And if doing a drawing or painting means that you're going to show people that you're not good at drawing or painting, then do it. It doesn't matter. You're not doing it for the people that are noticing your shortcomings. You're doing it for yourself. This is first and foremost for yourself. Always remember that. So that suffering is really important. It's very important because it's always going to be there. But I think that it can't be all suffering. It can't be us putting ourselves down every single time. It can't be drawing, looking back at us, reflecting everything that we don't know, because those things can diminish our drive. And what we want is to always be excited, always have energy. Every time we sit down and draw, every time we sit down and paint, we're saying, let's go, let's do this. This is an awesome opportunity to learn something about my subject matter, to learn something about myself, and hopefully to grow. You want to feel that. You want to feel that sense of, I want to enjoy this moment. And going back to what I said at the beginning, one of the things that I grant myself the right to do is to distort, because many times I feel like I have to be disciplined. Like yesterday, I'm not going to say that that's the most disciplined that I can be, but yesterday I had to try and finesse my way through that drawing. There was a lot of control, as much control as I can exercise. For a lot of people, the drawing I did yesterday's cake, and it's going to be like a sketch for them. And that's totally fine. Good for them. But for me, it's tough. For me, it's very tough because I have to be on my game. I have to pay attention. I have to be sensitive. I have to first and foremost think about who Danny is. And then I have to think about how I feel about her. And I have to try and understand how to translate those things into drawing. So there's a ton of translation going on. There's a ton of attempting to understand something and then trying to translate it to drawing, which is very, very complex. Again, when done properly, painting and drawing can be incredibly draining. You could draw for an hour or paint for an hour, and if you do it well, you can be exhausted after that hour because your whole body and your mind are working towards trying to solve something. You know, it's constant problem solving and it's constant evaluation, super high energy all the time. It doesn't matter if you have complete control over your brushstrokes. It doesn't matter. Our mind is like super busy trying to figure a ton of things out. So it's really wonderful when we can access what it truly means or how it truly feels to draw and paint. I always tell people, don't be mistaken. You can draw or paint for an hour a week. Let's say you have a day job and you have a family or you have a partner, and it's not easy. It's not easy to fit in, this thing that you love to do with all your other responsibilities. I totally get it. That's life, right? But I always remind people, when you sit down, make it count. But don't feel pressure. Making it count doesn't mean that you have to produce a masterpiece. No, it could be half an hour. It could be an hour, and just be there. Just really be there. One of the things that gives me energy and makes me want to go back is just to have fun distorting. But it's not having fun just for the sake of having fun. No, it's actually saying, let me examine my subject matter and let me see what sort of disproportion I can push. Let me see what sort of gestures I can exaggerate, and let me see if I can then configure something that hopefully makes sense. Because you can stretch things all over the place and it's almost like silly putty. At some point, you're stretching it way too thinly and it breaks. At some point, if you're just pushing for the sake of pushing, stretching for the sake of stretching, it's going to break apart. So you have to try and be in control of what you're doing. For today, I wanted to enjoy that vertical push. I wanted to enjoy those y-axis gestures. And this is so funny because I was going to mention this incredible artist today, but somebody mentioned him in an Instagram comment, and I always love when those things happen where I know that I'm going to talk about somebody, and I haven't mentioned that particular artist in any of the videos, and there's somebody out there like a kindred soul. I echo some of the things that sensible spirit also enjoys, and they catch on to those things and they say, hey, that drawing reminds me of this particular artist. So what that person said was that a drawing reminded him of a Stanley Spencer drawing. And with that comment, he got in front of me because I was going to mention Stanley Spencer for today. Now, I think I've mentioned Spencer before, but he has to be one of my favorite British artists. He is fantastic. When I see Stanley Spencer's work, and he's a very proficient painter, so he actually produced paintings that are quite different. But when I think of Stanley Spencer, I just adore his straightforward portrait work. His self-portraits are just absolute magic. He is incredible. And he has this very beautiful light touch when he's drawing. He's almost like Holbein meets Modigliani, kind of. I know that sounds weird, but that just came into my mind. But he does feel like the combination of those two. But there's a beautiful, beautiful soft sensitivity to his drawings. And it's so amazing that sensitivity sometimes produces very awkward misproportions. There's very expressive gestures that he pushes. And because of that, obviously, he's one of my favorite artists. If you think about it, without Spencer, there's a side of British figurative painting that just breaks apart. Like if you take away Spencer from that chain, from that evolution of British figurative painting, you wouldn't have Lucian Freud and you wouldn't have Michael Taylor. And with those three artists, that should give you an idea of what I'm trying to access when I'm pushing misproportion, when I'm pushing distortion. Because Stanley Spencer, Lucian Freud, and Michael Taylor are able to understand the human essence without being overly academic. They are able to push and distort tons of features without sacrificing our humanity. And it's incredible. That's by far the one thing that interests me the most about those three artists. Michael Taylor, for example, he has to be one of the best contemporary painters today. If you don't know who Michael Taylor is, he's actually the painter that painted The Boy with Apple from Grand Budapest Hotel. So I obviously love him. Going back to Spencer, I mean, there's obviously artists before Spencer that helped construct this ladder, but Stanley Spencer to me is like a perfect painter to look up to. For me, again, this is my process. This is a me thing. The coolest thing is that I found those people. Nobody can tell me like, oh no, you shouldn't have looked at those people. You should look at these other people. No. I'm fine with these people. I've searched all over the place for years. When I found these people and my body and my mind and my heart told me that they were it, I trust that feeling. I trust it. I know it to be true. So these are my artists. Like, these are the people that make me feel okay when I try to push something. Maybe I feel ridiculous and defeated when I push a little bit too far and everything just falls apart. These are the people that pick me right back up and tell me, you're exploring your parameters and that's totally fine. Come on, tomorrow is another day. You're going to take all that experience from today and you're going to pour it into tomorrow's painting. And maybe we fail again. It doesn't matter. That's also going to help you grow, and you're going to pour all of that into, next day's painting. For me, this is like a source of inspiration, source of energy. And when I can push distortion, this is a very simple, honest, and I think innocent way to access something that literally makes me happy. And there is something to be said about doing a drawing that just makes you smile. It warms your heart, and you just feel whole when you're done. You look at your drawing, you're grinning, you're satisfied, and I needed that little shot just to get me over that hump, and I'm ready for future challenges. That's what distortion does for me. The only regret I have when I'm done with a drawing that I'm slightly pushing, like today's, is knowing that I didn't push enough. I always feel like, come on, I could have pushed further. But again, that's what I'm going to do next time. So that's going to be it for today. Danny and I are super grateful that you let us be your company, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes a day. And all we ask is that you give us a chance to be your company next week. Next week, we're going to do something totally different. We're going to have new week, new theme. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. Love you guys. See you next week. Bye.